Winning a title is great, but winning them against bigger opponents is the stuff of legend. Let's take a look at the top 10 greatest multi-divisional champs in history. For a small island of just over 3 million people, Puerto Rico has produced a ridiculous amount of boxing champions. Champions like Jose Torres, Hector Camacho, Felix Trinidad, Wilfred Benitez, and Danny Garcia all trace their roots to the archipelago. But the greatest boxing name Puerto Rico has produced is our number 10, 4-division champion and massively chill guy, Miguel Cotto. Cotto began his career at 140 pounds with a first-round stoppage. And by the time he had reached 21-0, he was holding the WBO light welterweight belt. 6 defenses later, he was ready to move up and win the WBA welterweight title on his first attempt. Welterweight was a much deeper division, but Cotto managed to swim for a while, beating names like Zab Judah and Sugar Shane Mosley. But his 32-fight unbeaten run came to an end at the possibly illegally enhanced hands of Antonio Margarito. Cotto was now a member of boxing's elite, able to book bouts against other icons of the sport. All but one of his 13 remaining fights were title bouts, and he added junior middle and middleweight belts of various flavors to his collection. He did all this amongst some of the toughest competition in history, and his losses were to men with names like Pacquiao, Mayweather, and Canelo. Despite the attention his success brought, Cotto remained calm and down to earth. So laid back, he was almost horizontal.
I'm going to be quickly, like always, you know. I like to talk over the ring.
By the time he retired, he was the most successful boxer Puerto Rico had ever produced. But it's an indication of his character that all he cared about was the opinion of those closest to him.
I'm going to make sure that my kids, they remember their dad as the guy who make it the best for them in every opportunity.
It was 1972 when our number 9, Roberto Duran, won his first title, the WBA lightweight belt. He was 29-0 and already known for his insane knockout power that had seen him fold all but 4 of his opponents. He was young and full of confidence, happy to predict what he would do to the champ he had just beaten, Ken Buchanan, if the two met again.
I believe there's talk now of a rematch later on. How do you think you're going to make out there?
Dice que si hay una revancha, ¿cuál es tu opinión respecto a la revancha?
Bueno, que en la revancha lo voy a poner a dormir más rápido esta vez.
He said, in a return match, I'll make him sleep faster.
Duran's confidence was well-founded as he amassed a stunning 71-1 record at lightweight. Everyone he faced learned a lesson about his lightning footwork and the power in his fists that earned him the nickname Hands of Stone. But he must have found it too easy, because in 1980, Duran moved up 7 pounds, past junior welterweight, straight to welterweight to face the other most accomplished boxer in the sport, Sugar Ray Leonard. Duran handed the American his first ever defeat, outpointing Leonard to win the WBC welterweight belt in the first fight of their historic trilogy. 3 years later, Duran was stopping Davey Moore for his first title at super welterweight, and then in 1989, at the age of 37, he beat Iran Barkley for the WBC middleweight title. Manos de Piedra would fight on for more than a decade, even having a few shots at a 5th title at super middleweight, though he would never manage to win a belt. He eventually retired in 2001, after more than 3 decades in the sport. His record finished at a mind-boggling 103-16, and he'd won titles in enough divisions that even the greatest people were losing count.
Roberto Duran has, at the age of 46,
Yeah, right.
he has won the title 3 times, huh?
Yeah,
I remember
He
No,
was
4 times.
about
4
to
times.
recently
4 times.
one of the
4 times,
champions.
huh? 4 times, yeah.
By the time our number 8, Vasiliy Lomachenko, retires, he may go down as the greatest boxer the world has ever seen. Before he arrived on the scene, winning titles in new divisions was done at a stately pace. The fastest anyone had managed the feat had been Australian Jeff Fennick, who claimed the bantam, super bantam, and featherweight titles in 20 fights. Loma did it in 12, and he also managed to set some other records along the way. When he received a title shot in only his second fight, some argued that he hadn't earned it. Vasiliy disagreed.
2 олимпийских золота, 2 золота чемпионата мира.
My argument is 2 gold medals from the Olympics,
Первый бой профессиональный с человеком, который находится в 10-х
2 gold medals from the World Amateur Championships. My first professional bout was a knockout with a guy who was in the top 10. What else? Also a Val Barker trophy. So what else? Who else can do that? Show it to me.
Чемпиона мира во втором бою. Кто может это сделать еще? Давайте.
Lomachenko failed to win the belt, suffering his first defeat, but came back to claim the title in his very next bout, equaling the fastest title win in history. He moved up to junior lightweight 4 fights later and beat Roman Martinez, becoming the fastest man in history to win 2 divisional titles. Then, 2 years later, he stepped up to lightweight to face and stop Jorge Linares, taking his 3rd divisional title in only his 12th fight. Lomachenko already tops several statistical categories and will probably take a few more before he's done. But it is unlikely the speed of his triple division championship run will ever be matched. So many great fighters have taken the nickname Sugar, including Hall of Famer Shane Mosley, and arguably the best to ever do it, Ray Robinson. But none of them plied their trade with the success over the range of weight divisions that the 80s Sugar, Ray Leonard, did. He picked up his first belt as part of the 27-fight win streak he began his career with, beating the also undefeated WBC and lineal welterweight champ Wilfred Benitez. Over the next 9 years, Leonard went on a 14-1 tear through every weight class from 147 to 175 pounds, winning major belts in each and lineal titles in 3. He was helped in his title run by the WBC's creation of their new super middleweight division in 1988, creating a 168-pound weight class between middleweight at 160 and light heavyweight at 175. Bizarrely, Leonard fought for this new belt in the same fight he was also vying for Donnie Lalonde's light heavyweight belt. With 1 TKO, he was able to win belts in 2 different weight divisions at once. He was only the 2nd man ever to win major titles in 5 different divisions, missing out on becoming the first by 3 days. As the opponents got heavier, Sugar's speed and fight IQ kept him competitive. Leonard retired for the 2nd time 2 fights later, but made 2 unsuccessful comebacks in 1991 and, amazingly, 1997. He may not have won any more titles, but he did manage to raise a small fortune for charity through his Sugar Ray Leonard Foundation.
Because for 21 years, I was fighting for one person, Ray Leonard. For the rest of my career, I will be fighting for the kids. Thank you so much.
In the last few fights of his career, our number 6, Floyd Mayweather, earned something of a reputation for hand-picking easy beats. If you weren't convinced he was taking it easy by his late career matchup with a Manny Pacquiao years past his prime, and many weren't,
it was more like a dance match, if you ask me, but...
then his 3rd retirement fight against the 30-3, practically unheard of Andre Berto should have convinced you. But if not, His fourth and final fight against a Conor McGregor in McGregor's first ever professional boxing match surely established that Manny Mayweather was only fighting to make his name. But it's worth remembering that there was a reason Floyd was in a position to pick opponents in the first place. It was because his run of titles in 5 different divisions came over a string of the very best names in the sport at the height of their careers. He beat Jose Luis Castillo for the lightweight title when Castillo was on an 11-0-1 streak. He retired the legendary Arturo Gatti in 6 for his super lightweight belt. Decision zabbed Judah to claim 2 belts at welterweight. And then went toe-to-toe with a resurgent Oscar de la Hoya for 12 rounds in one of the best fights of the year to pick up his light middleweight. Add to that ring and lineal title fights against Carlos Baldomir on an 18-0-2 streak, and a young and undefeated Canelo Alvarez, and you have one of the best strings of title names in history. So next time you see Mayweather beating up a young celebrity for a few million easy dollars, just remember, he had to walk through the fire to get there. Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Marvin Hagler, and Roberto Duran were the 4 biggest names in boxing during the early 80s, and you could make an argument for 3 of those legends being on this list. Marvelous Marvin was the undisputed middleweight champ for 7 years, but despite being one of the best ever, he stayed at middleweight his entire career until his retirement, so he doesn't make the cut. Duran, arguably the greatest lightweight of all time, wanted to test his mettle against the best he could, so the 5'7" Hands of Stone moved up several divisions to find worthy adversaries. As only the second boxer to have competed over a span of 5 decades, Duran claimed world titles in 4 weight divisions, including reigns as the undisputed and lineal lightweight champion and the lineal welterweight champ. Olympic gold medalist and boxing savant Sugar Ray Leonard went one better than his arch-rival Duran by claiming world titles in 5 divisions. But of the Fab Four, you have to give it to Thomas Hearns over Sugar Ray. Despite Sugar beating Hearns the first time they fought and squeaking out a draw in their epic rematch. As a 6'1" welterweight with giant arms and shoulders, the Hitman from Detroit entered the ring as one of the most aggressive and hard-hitting fighters the division had ever seen. But while some fighters lose their power as they move up divisions, the Hitman managed to move up an astonishing 50 pounds during his career, and he knocked out opponents in every division from welter right up to cruiserweight. But why Hearns over Sugar? He was the first boxer in history to win world titles in 4 divisions: welter, junior middle, middle, super middle, and then he broke his own record by becoming the first ever 5-division champ when he claimed the light heavyweight title. Sugar reached 5 too, but Hearns got there first. Somewhere along the line of his 16-year career, Oscar de la Hoya's list of achievements just got ridiculous. It all started routinely enough for the young Mexican-American with a gold medal at the '92 Olympics. People win gold medals at the Olympics all the time. No big deal. Still, he was looking pretty impressive when he went 12-0 and won the WBO junior lightweight title from the undefeated Jimmy Brettel. And we really got how good he was when he moved up 2 fights later to win a lightweight strap. When he squared off with Mexican pugilistic deity Julio Cesar Chavez at light welterweight for a title in his 3rd division, he was starting to look almost aggressively successful. And when he busted up the legend's face to stop Chavez in the 4th for only his 2nd loss in nearly 100 fights, it was hard not to take the Golden Boy's success personally. Especially when he continued to rub his excellence in our faces, defeating Pernell Whitaker for the WBC and lineal welterweight titles, which he defended 7 times. Felix Trinidad and Shane Mosley pressed pause on the Golden Boys' skillathon, but De La Hoya still managed to grab a stack of light middleweight titles and a middleweight belt, taking the number of weight classes he'd won titles in to 6. And let's not forget that by the end of his insanely successful fighting career, where he was earning more than any boxer before in history, he was also promoting his own fights, designing the model for modern self-made gazillionaire fighters like Floyd Mayweather. Some people achieve with their lives and some people achieve a lot. And then some people are Oscar De La Hoya, the 6th division champion with a multi-million-dollar fight promotions company and more money than he can count. It's like the only thing he hasn't won is a Grammy, but he was nominated for one. Of course he was. The whole point of weight divisions in boxing is to protect the smaller fighter from the extra power a larger fighter can both generate and withstand. The difference matters more the heavier you get, which is why the difference between the feather and junior bantamweight divisions is 3 pounds, while the difference between light heavy and cruiserweight is 25. Of course, the weight limits stop at heavyweight, which is why no one ever tries to get multiple divisional titles up there. No one, except our number 3, Roy Jones Jr. One of the most creative and naturally gifted boxers to ever touch him up, Jones fought in the Olympics at junior middleweight. When he went pro, he outpointed Bernard Hopkins in his 22nd straight win to pick up his first title at middleweight, the 160-pound limit. When he won the WBA heavyweight belt, the 4th weight class he had won a title in, his opponent, John Ruiz, weighed in at 226 pounds, a full 66 pounds heavier than middleweight, and 33 pounds heavier than Jones on the night. Junior had entirely skipped the cruiserweight division, making his way through the IBF super middle and undisputed light heavyweight titles to get to the top. But in that classic tale of boxers who clung on too long, Jones continued fighting through his late 30s and 40s, suffering some ugly losses in the quest to stay relevant. He eventually hung him up at the age of 49 after boxing up a string of no-names, but his achievements at the peak of his career are singular and historical, and more than explain his presence at number 3 on our list. Any list of divisional jumpers in boxing has to be linked to some of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters of all time, because they're literally proving their brilliance regardless of their size. The man they invented the term for was the original Sugar Ray.
Sugar Ray Robinson, world middleweight champion.
Robinson was a sublime boxer, dangerous from every angle, and the most skilled pugilist anyone had ever seen. So when Sugar Ray, the consensus best boxer of all time, calls Henry Armstrong his idol, you've got to pay attention, because Homicide Hank was something to behold. The Swarmer's Swarmer, Hank would murder men with relentless aggression, constantly pressuring with heavy hands and an ungodly stamina the likes of which had never been seen or has been seen again. And the little guy would do it fight after fight after fight. He was only 5'5.5". And with a 67-inch wingspan, he wasn't a big guy by any measure. But in a career that spanned only 14 years, Armstrong racked up a beastly record of 152 wins, 22 losses, and 9 draws, with 101 knockouts. Doing the math, that's an average of just under 13 fights a year, which alone is an accomplishment. But we're talking about divisional jumping, and that's where Armstrong did the unmatchable. In the space of just 10 months, Armstrong became the simultaneous 3-belt feather, light, and welterweight champion of the world. He's the only man to have come even close to such a feat. To put it in context, it's like Leo Santa Cruz winning the featherweight title from Carl Frampton, then beating Errol Spence for the welterweight title, before dropping down to beat Vasiliy Lomachenko for the lightweight title, all within a year. That's what Homicide Hank could do, and no one will ever do the same again. Anyone who knows boxing knows that when talking about multi-divisional champions, there is only one name that makes sense at number one, the pride of the Philippines.
Manny Pacquiao!
There are 24 fighters who won major or minor titles in at least 4 divisions and 10 who did it in at least 5. When you get to titles in 6 divisions, there are only 5 names and only 2 names with 7. But the Filipino senator and former professional basketball player is the only man in history to have claimed titles in 8 separate divisions, claiming something meaningful at most of the stops between 112 pounds and 154. For some reason, he skipped bantamweight entirely. It must have been too easy. Even his so-called minor titles weren't that minor. We're not talking NBA or IBC here. No, in the 2 divisions Pacquiao didn't win a major alpha belt, feather and junior welter, he still claimed the ring and lineal titles. Despite winning such a healthy collection of straps, for Manny, it was never about the belt itself.
Oh, that's a nice belt and nice, beautiful belt. It's gonna be a good belt, but the most important thing is the fight and how we entertain people, how we make them happy.
Entertaining people and making them happy was something Senator Pac-Man specialized in. He had a reputation for exciting fights packed with action, and he delivered on that reputation in his title fights. Whether it was a barnstorming 12-round split decision draw against Juan Manuel Marquez to keep the super featherweight strap, one of the greatest knockouts in boxing history to win Ricky Hatton's junior welterweight ring and lineal title, stepping up to super welterweight to utterly batter Antonio Margarito for 12 rounds despite weighing an estimated 20 pounds less on fight night. Or stopping Miguel Cotto in the final round with a barrage of punishment to claim his first welterweight belt. Pacquiao gave fans what they wanted, no matter the stakes. Late in his career, Pacquiao settled in the welterweight division, regaining a title with an age-defying 7th-round stoppage of Lucas Matisse at the age of 39. Emmanuel Dapidran Pacquiao showed his quality at every weight class he could reasonably be expected to make, and at least one he couldn't. And the title of greatest multi-divisional boxing champ in history is just another title to add to his list. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you want more fight sports in your life, just hit the subscribe button.